Hello, everybody. This is Science Bridge webinar series, You Can Do It. And my guest today is Dr. Vuyolwethu Siyo. Vuyo has a PhD degree in medical biochemistry. She got it at the University of Cape Town. She thereafter continued her journey at UCT as a postdoctoral fellow and lecturer. Additionally, she completed various courses on instructional technology and course design. Currently, Vuyo is a creator and host of the Entrepreneur Scientist podcast. You can check it in the description of this video. So, hello, Vuyo.
Hello, Martina. Thank you for having me.
No, it's great to have you here because I know that you continued your journey after you got your degree still at the university, and now you started your own podcast, which is another great accomplishment. So this is fantastic journey, and I think you have a lot of lessons for our viewers.
Well, yes, I do. I hope I can. I hope my life story can help others meet them where they are and help them see things from a different perspective. And yeah, just let's share stories.
Absolutely. So let's start with you became a scientist. So what does it mean to become a scientist for you?
Wow, being a scientist for me means I can create something out of nothing. I can use my imagination, and I can use that imagination to find solutions that are not as obvious to everyone, to solve problems that I see around me. It means I can develop skills such as critical thinking, and I can experiment without fear of failure or being able to tolerate failure, because in science, you experiment all the time, and most of the time it's failure, but you learn to deal with it and you master the skill of actually failing forward and using failure as information to make things better so that you can create a solution that is viable. So that for me is what science means. It's a beautiful world. It's like it's just exploration and experimentation.
No, it definitely is a beautiful world, but I can imagine that all those lessons were hard with time. So when did you decide to actually become a scientist? Did you think at the beginning that that's what scientist means?
No. No. So Martina, I grew up in a township in East London, in the Eastern Cape. And historically, townships in South Africa, especially Black townships, they've got very limited representation of different careers or different professions. So the people that I saw, even within my household, were either nurses, police, teachers, very few doctors, but and mine workers. So I didn't really have much, role modeling in terms of science in my surrounding. So, like I like to say that you can't dream of something you don't know. So for me, it was not a dream of mine when I was growing up. But I wanted to become a medical doctor, and not because also I thought medical doctor is for me, but I was like, figured I'm good in the sciences at school, and I would make my grandmother proud because, doctors, they are held at such a high social status in the community. So I was like, okay, it'll make my grandmother proud, and my friends wanted to be doctors, so then we go for this. And then I went and I applied, and I didn't get in. And I tried a few times actually, and it was quite devastating for me at that time. But then I got in at UCT for my second option, which was a BA in psychology. Yes, the story is long. Um, and then, and then what then happened was I had to pivot and move to BSc while inside UCT, because I had heard that I can be accepted in medical school if I have a BSc degree. So I did human biosciences. And I just generally loved that. And I remember sitting in one lecture, one of my majors was biochemistry. So I had psychology, physiology, and biochemistry. And I sat in a biochemistry lecture, and this lecturer was teaching us about fatty acids. And I remember him drawing the structures. I just remember just feeling like this is what I want to do. I was just in love with it. I loved how, you know, it was involved in all these structures of our bodies, your cells, your membranes, and all these things. And I just excelled in it, and I just wanted to do it. And I think that's how the science bug got me. And then I did my honors, my master's, and then it got upgraded to a PhD. And I mean, I may say it as if it was a straight, beautiful road, but it had a lot of challenges. It had a lot of challenges and a lot of depressing moments, but I learned so much about myself during that time. So yes, so that's how I got into the sciences, and yeah, still am kind of science adjacent till today.
So let's say the depressive moment that you're describing, I guess it was the moments when things weren't working your way, right?
Yes. So like I told you that everything, most of the transitionings that I was happening, it was because, okay, I had this idea that I wanted to do science because I loved science, but I also wanted to do science because I actually wanted to help people with it. I wanted to find solutions in it, you know? So for me, when I got to really just the PhD stage, the type of science that I was doing was in conflict with what I wanted to do with the science. For me, it was not, my strengths were not played out well, I guess. They were not, I couldn't really apply them well. So that was conflicting with me, so my value, what I believed, what I wanted to do, and what I was actually doing was not gelling, and that was very depressing for me. But also the journey, the PhD journey, can be draining. There's a lot of things not working out in terms of those experiments, but also there is conflict of expectations between, you know, supervisors and students. So it's a lot more than just the science itself. But if I were to just talk about the science, I guess for me, what I was required to do and the type of science that I was doing and what I valued and I wanted to do with science was clashing.
So if I maybe I'm guessing correctly, is that when you're studying the medical biochemistry, it's very one-way detail. You're focusing on a very small pathway that you are following up, but you're not actually doing something practical.
Exactly, because now I found myself focusing on, you know, pathways, focusing on what a single, and everything was like in tissue culture. My research was mostly in tissue culture. So I was not working on a solution that I could see, like I could test out if it's actually working in real time, addressing people's current needs outside. So for me, that became very limiting, and I felt like it was not fulfilling for me. Um, I think it was good work, but for me, what I valued and what I wanted, it wasn't doing it.
No, I absolutely understand. And I think some of our viewers can relate to your story quite a bit. And I think, you know, the PhD journey can be very satisfying for some, not for everybody. And then, as you're saying, additionally, there might be conflicts in the group setup or not. It depends where you land your position. So all of those things can become draining and tiring.
Yeah.
So what happened that after PhD, because you still did stay at UCT. So why did you stay? Why did you decide to continue your journey at the UCT? Because I see that there were some changes in your curriculum after your PhD.
Yes, yes. So just before I finished my PhD, I had decided that I no longer wanted to continue with academia. But I did not know what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure on the way to go, what to do if I don't do academia. Because remember, in the university, the only thing you know is academia. That's what you're surrounded with. Your professors, most of the things they know, all they know in their experience is the academic world. So there isn't many places you can go for advice, for direction. And like I was saying earlier, it's very difficult to know things you don't know. So I was at a point where I realized that all that I knew, which was academia, was not in line with my strengths, and it's not something I wanted to continue with. But I didn't know where to go because I didn't really know what my other options were. And so I didn't know what I didn't know, basically. So then there was also the fear, the reality of the fact that I had to support myself. And so there was also the financial aspect of it. I didn't feel like, I felt like I would feel like a failure if I left academia. So there was all these conflicting things that, although I know I don't want to be here, but I'm scared to leave because I don't want to look like a failure. But at the same time, this is all I know and I need the money. So let me stay here and do what I know. So I then did my postdoc, and that was quite I had the most wonderful PI. He allowed me to explore. He allowed me to be me. He didn't really confine me into doing the lab work that I knew that my strengths were not in. So he really just allowed me to go and explore and find myself, which is when I started experimenting with, okay, do I want to do teaching? You know, is that maybe an area of academia that is aligned with my strengths, and maybe it's an area of academia that I can go into. And so I kept on just experimenting with what was available to me, which is why you'll see my my profile being colorful, because I really just went and I tried different things to see what aligns with me and where my strengths actually shine and where I can bring the most value. So yes, so then I went into teaching. I applied through the UCT website and I got in. And yeah, so I actually thought, so at the time I was doing teaching, I was also pursuing a diploma in higher education and teaching. So I thought, okay, so I'm going to combine my PhD skills with the teaching skills, and I'm going to actually train these students, train the next scientists to be able to bring value out there, to live and work at their potential. So I had that passion when I got to the teaching, but then the structure that I had to teach in was also just in conflict with me, because now I was teaching children things that they would regurgitate, that I felt like they could read off the internet. And that was the curriculum that I had to abide by. And that for me, I also felt like it was not bringing the value that I wanted to bring to those students, because I knew that as soon as they pass and they get their degrees, they join the ranks of unemployment. So I felt like, for me, what I'm teaching is not getting them to be able to really be able to use what they are learning to get to the next stage of their lives. So I'm teaching them theory. I'm teaching them, formulas and stuff, and things that I know that they can go and learn from the internet or whatever. But I'm not necessarily getting to the principles and things that they can now use to and apply to solve solutions that can help them get to where they want to go. I'm not sure if I'm clear. So that space for me was also to construct, it was not making me be able to use the teaching in the way that I wanted to use it. So when my contract ended, I then decided, let me take a leap and let me actually face my fears and leave academia and pursue something that's going to align with my values, and something that I would feel like I am producing something that will provide value and will actually serve people, and help them be able to navigate some of the challenges in their lives, to be able to reach their goals, create a path for scientists, a path that I felt like I needed when I was at where they are. So that was the reason why I stayed so long. I stayed because mainly of fear, but I got the courage 6 years later to leave. But it took a long time. I was in denial, but I actually think it was inevitable that I leave, so that I can actually face my fears and bring the value that I felt I could bring.
So is that the moment when you started your podcast?
Yes. so I left end of last year, and that's when my contract ended. And then I decided to start a business, okay, because I needed to support myself. I've always been an entrepreneurial person. In high school, I was that girl selling chocolates. I was hustling. I was never without money. Even at varsity, I was, making sure that I recover money from my textbooks, and I'll always be on the hustle, making sure that I'm keeping afloat. But I did entrepreneurial stuff to solve your issues, so you can pay me for the solution that I gave you. But then, you get into this road that, okay, I want this career, I want this. And I remember one time, it was during the time where I was struggling, trying to figure myself out, doing my postdoc. And I approached one of the professors in medical school. And I said, look, I don't want to do this. I want to solve X, Y, Z. I want to change this, and I want to do this. So they were like, oh, okay, I think the best person to talk to you is X. I don't know if I can mention people's names. But this professor, we were having a meeting, and it was supposed to be 30 minutes, ended up being 2 hours. And I was pitching this idea to him of how to change the curriculum this way and what to do. And then he was like, you're not a scientist, you're an entrepreneur. And I was like, yo, this guy is not serious. Like, I'm pitching this because I need this done, and you're telling me entrepreneurship, like, I don't have time for this. So he told me, like, look, I can get an office for you. You can write a book about this. You have great ideas. And I'm like, sure, this guy's wasting my time. I left. But that was just me, just not being, I guess, attentive to what my strengths were. But then I got to a point where now I had to, find a way to make money for myself. So I had to, like, pull on those strengths. And that's when I started, making connections with people and getting, contracts that I can, design courses for them and all those things. Okay, that was good and well. But then I had other projects that I was starting up, other ventures that were failing dismally. like there were ideas not getting off the ground. There were other ideas that were just failing along the way. And I just was starting to get frustrated and asking myself, like, what's going on? I need to understand more about business. Okay, so I might have something that's a bit more natural towards business, but I need to learn more about it because I wasn't taught it at school. And then I started looking at what other entrepreneurs have been doing, like what other successful entrepreneurs have been doing. And biographies are very expensive. So I would buy books. I would buy books like Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. I would do all these, self-learning. And then I realized that most of these people don't have the same background I have. So I still have some questions, and I don't really know how to use my scientific skills in these entrepreneurial ventures. And I also felt like, oh my goodness, like a bit of guilt that I was leaving science, if that makes sense, because I've invested so much time acquiring my science skills and working towards my PhD, only for me to just throw it away. So I was like struggling with all that, and then I decided, okay, the best thing for me to do, because I like talking, I'm sure you've picked that up, is for me to talk to people. It's for me to ask questions, because it's people who have the experience, who have done things, who'll be able to tell me things that they've done, and I can adapt it to where I am and use it to get me to the other side. So I started doing informational interviews, and I'd meet like these wonderful people. And then my sister told me, like, there's so many people that maybe don't really have your network of people to talk to. So they might not be able to, they might be struggling in the corner and might not be able to have the information that you're getting from these people that you're talking to. Why not record this, and share it for maybe other people that need the same kind of assistance that you need, to help them along the way. So I was like, okay, that's a great idea. And then I enrolled into this podcast workshop thing with African Podcast Workshop, and I met some journalists there, and some mentors, and some producers, and got into a 10-week thing with them, and we still do some work a little bit together. But I learned a bit about podcasting, and I decided, yeah, that's what I want to do. And this is how I want to share the knowledge and hopefully help other scientists who want to be entrepreneurs, who are struggling in the way, to learn from other scientists who have made it, who've been on the other side, who've walked the way, and can actually show us how they navigated the ups and downs. And maybe we can adapt those strategies in our journeys. And yeah. So that's why I started.
And you say books are expensive. Maybe one day you're gonna write your own book.
That's the goal. Let's put it out to the universe. Write my own book.
Exactly. Book about entrepreneurship in science in South Africa. Okay, so for today, that's all. But stay tuned and watch our second part of the interview, which will be released next week, Tuesday.